All Politics is Local with Jon Fetherston, an in-depth and comprehensive look at Massachusetts political news and current events.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of All Politics is Local. I'm Jon. That's Mike. What's going on, Mr. Adams?
I'm still Mike.
Still Mike.
And I'm still glad you're still Jon. We don't want you to change. Don't ever change, Jon.
What a week in the world of politics, Mr. Adams.
It's hard to keep up with.
I enjoy it, but I mean, it's like we'll talk about a lot of things today. We'll talk about Doge. We'll talk about the audit. But the one thing, have you ever had a mass save audit done on your home?
No, not well. You mean to save energy?
Yeah, to save energy.
I might have.
I had one.
They told me to fix the roof. There's a big hole in it.
We blew insulation into the attic, and we changed all of our light bulbs in the house, and the light bulbs were horrible.
Yeah, they are.
But it's no longer mass save. It's now mass pay. What Maura Healey has done to yours, how do you heat your home?
Well, we have oil hot water blown through the house.
Forced hot water?
Yeah, we got what do you call them, radiators down there on the floor? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I have gas.
Very modern.
I have gas heat in my house. And my bill last month, my gas usage was $320.
Yeah.
My delivery charge on that gas was $600. So I had a $900 gas bill in my house. And it's all because of Maura Healey canceled 2 pipelines. And I think we've got a clip. Let's go to that clip now of Ben Simino from WCVB asking her about what's going on.
Commissioners, does your administration bear some responsibility for not acting sooner on these rates?
No, I don't believe so.
It's not my fault.
She had nothing to do with it.
I had nothing to do with it.
No.
It's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. I mean, enough is enough, Maura. Like, you brag when you're campaigning that you stopped 2 pipelines to Massachusetts. You have the ability to appoint people to this board, and you still don't think this is any of your fault?
Well, plus it seems like she's able to add charges to all kinds of functions in life. Isn't she involved in prescription?
She wants to charge $2 per prescription to help pay for the cost of the migrants' free health care.
Yeah, and these two things are so related. How? I mean, why does that? We already have a gigantic budget addendum from Maura Healey based on additional costs to pay for the last year's migrants, right? I don't understand.
Some little old lady needs, life-saving prescriptions, and we're going to charge her $2 per prescription to fund the migrant program. Tell me how that makes sense in anybody's world.
Over and above whatever it already costs for health care, to add to that for the purpose of that you just described, of making sure that the illegal immigrants get what they need, it doesn't make any sense. And it seems to me like the entire Commonwealth should be up in arms over everything she's doing.
I think we have another clip that's not going to make any sense to anybody, but look at the type of individual that Maura Healey appoints to these boards.
Before I was able to get new windows. Plastic is another really important thing, and I want to quickly make the connection for you. As the fossil fuel companies see the writing on the wall and demand for fossil fuels is going down and will continue to go down, they are increasing their upstream production of plastic because plastic is made from fossil fuels. It's really hard. And believe me, I just bought some cherry tomatoes today and they came in a plastic container and I was hungry and I had a short of time and I did it. So we're not going to be angels, but think about ways that you can reduce plastic in your diet or in your home purchases and try not to do that. Making your home as energy efficient as possible. Even if you're just covering up the windows in the wintertime with that plastic sheeting. I used to do that before I was able to get new windows. Plastic is another really important thing, and I want to quickly make the connection for you.
How is this lady in charge of anything? How is she in charge of lunch today, much less the energy policy?
Send her out. I need some cherry tomatoes, but no plastic involved. The other thing is, does she realize her glasses frames are plastic? I mean, where's the common sense, Jon? Where is it?
You're the governor of Massachusetts. You could choose from a huge poll of over, millions of people. And that's your choice to run your energy program.
But it's like all the common sense in the world is gone from, I think Doge is great. And I think it adds up to a common sense, equation. No question about it. But I pulled this off. Look at this. I pulled this off the internet. I'll hold this up. This is a children's book, inspired by a real family. It says the children's book is called "In My Daddy's Belly."
What?
And it's the story of a transgender dad giving birth. Okay, call me ignorant, but I was pretty much under the impression that the only bellies that you can evolve from would be a woman's belly, right?
That's what I was taught.
Am I wrong about this?
That's what,
It's a children's book, and they were trying to get it banned from the, look, you're going to give this to a 6-year-old and say, oh, no, daddy can have a... What are we doing here? Where's the common sense? It's unbelievable.
We want this in our schools. But I lived for a short period of time in North Carolina. NASCAR was huge in North Carolina. I remember when I lived in the Carolinas, they wanted to ban all tobacco ads on NASCAR because they were destructive to children. But now, in 2025, this is okay.
This is okay.
So Joe Camel bad. This is good.
Right.
This is
the
good.
Marlboro Man is a bad
man.
But this guy, he's having kids. Let's put him on the front page.
What is going wrong in the world?
I don't know. And if there's ever a book that tells exactly how this happened in my daddy's belly, then I might read it. But to have a book saying that, oh, yeah, it happens and it doesn't happen, it's common sense is a thing. And that's where I think that this Doge thing and the Trump thing and the Republican wave is a common sense wave of clear thinking. That's all it is, really. It's not, it's not hatred for this person or that person or this cause or that cause. It's use your brain to have clear thinking, logical steps you take toward making things better. What's wrong with that?
I find no fault in that. I can find no way to criticize something like that. But, okay, everybody is entitled to their beliefs. I think you know that about me. Like, you're entitled to your beliefs, but you're also entitled to, in this country, which is one of the great things, to make a fool out of yourself. Mm-hmm. And, like, where's that line between your beliefs and making a fool out of yourself and then pushing your agenda on kids who don't know how to push back, who don't know how to do critical thinking? Because this is probably what age group? First, second grade.
It's a child's book.
It's a child's book.
And so the one thing you don't want to do is mislead the children, who you're responsible for their education and their furtherance of their life in a good fashion. You don't want to mislead them and say, well, yeah, from an early age, men can have kids, give birth to kids, I should say, because, obviously fatherhood.
Yes, of course.
And
right.
this whole thing about instead of calling it someone's mother, calling it an inseminated person. And what is that?
Happy Inseminated Day.
Can you? Is that what you say? Your mother.
Here's
Hey,
some
Mom,
flowers.
a happy inseminated person's day. Here's a cake and some flowers for you. It doesn't make any sense at all. What are they trying to do? Disguise the untruth of what they're trying to get across? It's ridiculous.
This is another key component, I think, of, a lot of people have said to me, do you see what Trump's doing? He wants to blow up the Department of Education. I said, okay, can he do it today? Because this is another thing. Trump values education. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you listen to Trump. He values education. He made sure his kids all got great educations. Sure. He values education. But what this would do is give education back to the states. And if you want this in your schools, then you make that decision. I think 49, maybe 48 other states in the country don't want this in their school. I think you and I live in a state that does want this in their school.
Well, yeah, but they can make it a local voting issue.
Exactly.
Each school board could put it up in front of the town council or what have you, get the thing nailed down in their community. But this is outrageous because everybody with a brain knows that men can't give birth.
Correct.
End of story.
End of story.
By the way, MSNBC did something right. There's several things right this week.
Little joy in the world.
Joy Reid, and boy, I'll tell you, Megyn Kelly and all these people, they went nuts on it. And, and Joy Reid had her defenders too. We're talking about Rachel.
Mad Cow.
Rachel loves her. But Joy Reid was a hateful person and a racist. She
has showed her true colors since she's been terminated.
That's right. And so they did that, and MSNBC, and I think they did it for other reasons than not maybe believing in all the things she says. I think they did it because her ratings went down 28% since Trump got elected, because people are saying, that's a bunch of BS. I don't want to watch that anymore.
It's interesting. The tide is turning, and it's the little things in life that you can start to now see that the tide is turning. And you're going to look at me and go, "What's wrong with John?"
No,
I went to Cumberland Farms on my way here today, and I grabbed a cup of coffee. You know what's on the coffee cups at Cumberland Farms now?
What?
An American flag.
Is it?
Yes. And it made my day. I'm like, will you look
at
that?
this.
Will you look at that? It's
Cumbies.
It's proud. You can be proud to be an American again.
Well,
and you know
and
what? So the tide is turning.
A little bit, and I think we had the whole the 2020, the George Floyd thing, and then end racism in the end zone of the Super Bowl, which they deleted this year, and they went with choose love instead of end racism, which is a lot more generic, because you're talking about nobody likes racism. I don't think I even know any real racists, but Joy Reid was one of them. And
Massachusetts has a congresswoman who's a racist.
Oh, Ayanna Pressley, I think, hates white people as well. But there's no reason to have any racism in any form, in any walk of life. It doesn't have to exist. I'm all for end racism, but to put it in the end zone in a professional league that's 57% black players seems like a waste of time.
It's feel-good advertising.
Yeah.
And it's totally ineffective.
You know who makes me feel good, though, John?
Who's that?
Tom Homan.
Oh.
This guy is the real deal. He is fearless. He's a bulldog. He doesn't, to quote him, doesn't give a bleep what people think about him. And that's the kind of person you need in a job like he's trying to do, because you're never going to be popular with that job until you get the result that's desired.
I've watched this next clip, and I could watch it 100 more times. This is one of the best clips that we will ever have.
Tom Homan.
Last night, the police commissioner of Boston, you said you doubled down on not helping the law enforcement officers of ICE. I'm coming to Boston. I'm bringing hell with me. I looked at the numbers this morning. I stopped counting at 9. 9 child rapists that were in jail in Massachusetts, but rather than honoring an ICE detainer, released them back into the street. You're not a police commissioner. Take that badge off your chest, put it in the desk drawer, because you became a politician. You forgot what it's like to be a cop.
Bravo,
I read a story.
Thank you, Tom Homan. Couple things.
Because nobody likes child rapists, period. Tom Homan knows it, but it seems like Massachusetts, the people making the rules and enforcing them, they don't realize that.
You're sitting next to a guy who knows where 30% of those 9 rapists are. I could take Tom there right now, and that's the scary thing, because he's right. They're walking the streets of Massachusetts.
That's right.
And we've got, like, I've said it before, if you're a liberal Democrat, you're a conservative Republican, you're a socialist, whatever, nobody wants a rapist walking the streets.
Period.
Common sense.
Find me the person that wants that, and then lock them up, too.
I had the opportunity, I was on NBC Boston talking about it, and I was asked the question, well, people are afraid of Tom Homan's rhetoric. I'm like, well, if you're afraid, you probably have an ICE detainer on you, and only bad people have ICE detainers.
Well, that's it. It's like when you're a cop. If you say, I don't like cops, I'm afraid of cops. Well, if you're not doing anything wrong, you shouldn't be afraid of any cop for any reason.
And as I said in this interview, one of the greatest things about Boston and Massachusetts, you do have diversity, you have a difference of opinion and everything, but Homan has never once said, if you've overstayed your visa, he's coming to get you. Maybe eventually that becomes, and maybe this should give you time to get your stuff in order and say, hey, listen, I overstayed my visa. What do I need to do to, correct it and stay in this country and make a contribution to this country? But if you're a child rapist, you got to go.
Yeah. And who in their right mind would say, that to go against that kind of thinking.
Commissioner Cox
is basically condoning it. Massachusetts has a lot of unusual politicians. I say unusual because I don't agree with any of them, largely on any level. But it's just some fresh stuff from Maura Healey. This is new, relatively new.
Do I need some Pepto-Bismol?
This is a text from Maura Healey. I'll quote her. People want to raise families and grow old in Massachusetts, but high housing costs hold them back. That's why one of my top priorities is building more homes. Last week, we awarded $158 million to projects that'll create 1,100 modern, affordable units across the state. Now, why do they need all those units?
Because we've got 35,000 migrants brought here to...
At least.
That's
yes.
what I was going to say.
That's just the Haitians.
Reported, right. That's just reported, yeah.
Right. So they need housing in Massachusetts because there's not already a housing crisis in that the cost of housing in Massachusetts is higher because we have an influx of students every year, more so than other states. And because we, as Massachusetts citizens, know this is true, we are free to allow anybody and everybody to come to the state and live here. Now, of course, they go into the cheapest possible housing when they get here. They're homeless when they get here. But what does that do? It bumps up demand, up the ladder. And so now the students are paying $2,300 for a studio in Boston because they have to. Well, it's a ripple effect going the wrong way. Here's another one from her. This is from February 19th, which was my birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday.
I'm 20 now.
Oh, just 20? You look bad for it.
Maura says transportation doesn't just get people to work. It puts people to work. We've got a plan to fix roads, bridges, and public transit and create 140,000 good-paying, family-sustaining jobs. The transportation situation, and whoever's in charge of that, I think I know who it is ridiculous. Just taking the T alone as a boondoggle and a drain of the taxpayers' funds. The T will never get straightened out as long as the people who are running it now continue to run it. Do you agree?
It'll give people an ice cream headache when I talk about it. The biggest tsunami coming to Massachusetts, believe it or not, is not the cost of the migrant shelters.
Which is huge.
It's going to be the unfunded liability of the MBTA in fiscal 26 and fiscal 27. It is so huge that there is no plan to fund it. The millionaire's tax has brought in more revenue than anticipated, but most of the millionaires who got stuck with the bill, they're leaving or are already gone.
True.
So that revenue is not going to be sustainable. And the MBTA...
But she's talking about hiring all these different people. 140,000 people.
Record investments, but you still got concrete falling on people's heads in the tunnel.
Right.
You still got the T catching on fire. The T still doesn't run on time. All of these record investments is like spitting on a fire.
And she's bragging about how we've made these buses free for some people. Not for all people, for some people, because she's buying votes.
But when it has been proven in government and even proven in sales, when you make something free, it has no value.
It's not really free either.
It's also like, if you pay, let's just say you have to pay $1 to ride the bus. Mm-hmm. Okay, you pay $1. It's still $1. You're paying something. You're invested in the program.
Right.
If you get on a bus and you're in a bad mood and I'm just going to rip the seat, going to punch a window, I'm going to leave my lunch on there. You don't care because you don't pay anything for it. It has no value.
That's right. So you have no respect for it.
You have no respect for it. And it ends up costing 3 times as much to provide something free. There is nothing more expensive in the world than a free thing.
Right. Right. And then people get used to it. It's like tax cuts versus taxes. You can't take away a gift that's been given to somebody without them getting angry about it. But you could have prevented giving them that free gift at the cost of the other taxpayers unfairly.
People say things aren't forever. There are 2 things that are forever: inflation and taxes.
Will Rogers said, the difference between death and taxes is that death doesn't get worse every time Congress meets. He was right. Elizabeth Warren's salary. You ready? Mel Gibson, of all people, who got his ex-Twitter account suspended for whatever. He's politically kind of gone in the right, I think in the right direction. He mentioned Elizabeth Warren's.
He's an ambassador now, you know that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's great. Elizabeth Warren's annual salary is $285,000 a year. Her net worth is $80 million. And Mel Gibson, of all people, is out there, freedom! He's out there tweeting about this. The Democrats' latest pick, though, latest plot to pick the pockets of working class Americans, as you mentioned, is the $2 per every prescription written in the state.
So, Mike, Elizabeth Warren, like, how has she amassed that wealth? I think she's getting 50 cents or a quarter on every one of Maura Healey's $2 prescription. She's bought and paid for by Big Pharma.
Yeah, Pfizer.
She's rallied against the banks, but if you actually do a deep dive on her campaign funds, the banks have given her a lot of money as well, too.
Well, she wants control of the machine. The thing about her is that she is the loudest. She's a wretch when it comes to complaining and kvetching about Doge, and in the meanwhile, that's the one thing people are united on is the cutting of waste and fraud and abuse in the system. And if she's arguing against Elon Musk, or in some cases RFK, there's a reason for it. And
show me the money.
She's in the top 3, when it comes to financial contributions from Big Pharma. So the heck with her.
People have said to me, "Oh, you got to feel sorry for her husband." No, he could walk out the door, but I really feel bad for Buddy the dog.
Buddy the dog.
I really do.
Jessica Machado had an op-ed where she mentioned.
She's great.
I don't know if this is accurate or not. But she said more than 60% of the voters in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts are unenrolled. Now, I would have thought if you asked me how many are Democrats, I would have said 70-30, Democrat, Republican, maybe on a good day. But I think a lot of these voters are unenrolled, and they just tend to vote that way for whatever reason. And it's a difficult state for Republicans to win in for that reason alone, is that it's a very, very liberal blue state, and people just tend to ride the tide and go with what they know. But is there any hope if we got 60% unenrolled that we can flip that switch a little bit and get a two-party system actually up and running in this Commonwealth?
The fascinating thing about Massachusetts politics is Massachusetts has no problem electing a conservative governor, because
a more conservative
governor. Yeah, a more conservative.
Yeah.
But you look at Bill Weld. Bill Weld was a strong fiscal conservative governor, and his protege Charlie Baker was not as strong but a fiscally conservative governor. Mitt Romney, I'm not going to tell you was a fiscal conservative because he brought in fees to Massachusetts, but more, talk about a businessman. He was a businessman. So Massachusetts will elect a governor, a fiscally conservative type of governor. But the common sense, and that's because the voters know you have to offset the craziness of tax and spend
somehow,
of Massachusetts.
Yeah. But it's the legislature that will vote against, like they did. When was it? Yesterday? When was the vote against the audit? When did that take place?
Yesterday. Yeah. So let's talk about it, because that 74% of the voters in the last election said, yes, we support the legislature being audited.
Yes.
74%.
Just to make sure everybody's spending the money properly and doing their job.
So that means a majority of Democrats, that means a majority of unenrolled, and of course, a majority of Republicans said, yes, we want that. We want it.
But it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
You know why?
Well, because there's corruption.
Because they had the vote, and the Massachusetts House of Representatives, and they had, it's a yay or nay situation. I don't know why they just say yes or no. They make it yay or nay. What are we, horses?
You push a button.
Yay, nay, would you like some hay? 24 yays, 127 nays.
So 127 elected officials are defying the will of the voters to say, we just want the books to be audited. What are they hiding, Mike?
Exactly the question that pops up automatically next.
What are you hiding?
And it's a lot.
I walk through TSA. You can go through my bag because I got nothing in there. I got nothing to hide. You know, you want to check my pants pockets? I got nothing to hide. You know, I'm kind of bored anyway, so, you know, just do it. I got nothing to hide. If you got nothing to hide, you want to be audited. If you want to audit my taxes, great. Okay.
When you got nothing to hide, you got nothing to worry about.
Right. What are these people afraid of?
I don't know, but their names are all listed on massfiscal.org. Right here, this document, which I printed out today, showing the 24 yays, 127 nays, defying, as you said, the will of the people who voted for the audit. So basically they're saying, screw the voters and the Massachusetts taxpayers. We're going to do what we want because we got something to hide.
If you've never gone to massfiscal.org, go to massfiscal.org.
Yeah.
Find out what's going on.
Yeah.
They have a rating system of how they rate your elected officials. They do check. The closest thing you're going to get to an audit in Massachusetts right now is massfiscal.org.
Yep.
Go find them out. They're a great organization. They do
With some truth.
They do a lot of good work, and they just put the truth out there. There's really no agenda. It's just like, here's the truth.
Now,
Speaking of truth, though.
Yes, I like truth.
I have to get to this. On my way to the studio today, I was listening to Grace Curley, and I heard my friend Steve Robinson come up.
From Maine.
Steve is the editor-in-chief of the Maine Wire, and he was going on about what happened in Maine last night. And I want to make sure I get this hero of mine.
What's going on with Maine?
Laura Levy is a state rep in Maine who now does not have the ability to vote.
Even though she's a state rep.
Even though she's a state rep, or even express her opinion in the chambers of Maine, because she believes, and I believe her as well, that men should not compete in women's sports. So the Maine legislature last night censored her and saying until she apologizes for a post that she put up on social media, she can no longer vote.
Stating her opinion about men competing in women's sports.
As bad as the Massachusetts legislature saying we're not going to respect the will of the voters and say you're not going to audit us, what happened in Maine last night is catastrophic. Because if you don't agree with somebody's opinion, okay, great, you don't agree with her. You don't take away their ability to represent people.
Right.
Vote her out of office if you don't like her. The power of the ballot box is still the most powerful thing in the United States. But Janet Mills going to the White House and picking a fight with Trump.
Over this very same issue.
This exact same issue. Did you think that this was going to work out for you? You're in his house,
right?
And you're picking a fight with him, and you think you're going to win. She probably put the jeopardy of education, public safety, roads, all in jeopardy because she's a moron.
Exactly. And by the way, right after that incident was all over social media. Video of her at a drag event, dancing on stage, dressed as whatever. Again, there's got to be a line where you say, okay, this isn't probably the right thing to do when I'm the governor of the state. Common sense. Again, John, it always goes back to common sense.
But, I mean, think about it. Her peers, Laura Levy's peers in Maine, voted to not give her a voice. Laura is more conservative. So what if conservatives did that to liberals? What would the response then be?
It would be all hellfire breakout.
Right.
You know,
look how hateful they are.
If people want truth, they want common sense, they want the opportunity to express themselves without being ridiculed and without being driven to the side one way or the other, because there are two sides to this. We know this is a split country, Democrats, Republicans, but if the Democrats would just take 20% of the common sense that is in most Republicans' thought patterns, they'd be much better off and much more accepted across the country. Because right now we have an issue, and you know what? Here's where they can get their truth. Right here on All Politics is Local with Jon Fetherston, who's sitting right here. This is a guy who pays attention, always tells the truth, and is pure of heart when it comes to his motivations. That's you, John.
Well, that was very nice of you, Mike.
Well, that's it. I need a raise.
Follow us on iHeart Radio. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Rumble.
Just follow us, except not when we leave the studio.
Follow Mike on Twitter on Mikey Adams 420.
Yeah, that's right.
You can follow me on Twitter or X at localpoliticsis. Anything else, Mike?
Well, not till next week, but I'll tell you what, there's always something. There's always something to talk about, and the input from the viewing public is welcome.
He's Mike Adams. I'm Jon Fetherston. We'll talk again real soon.